Should have helped him. Instead, I said, "What a great idea for a story." That's a great idea. And that's really, I started making notes. That's where the haunted mask came from him being
Right.
stuck in a mask.
I only have one rule. Stay out of the basement.
What do you got in the basement?
But
I
what
wanted
can
to start this interview by asking you, how has 2024 treated you, sir, so far? I mean, we're still 11 days away from finishing the year.
it's well, no, you don't want to know from it. Don't ask that question.
Oh, I'm
my,
sorry.
my real life is horrible. My
Mhm.
writing life is amazing. I've had an incredible year. And I'm old now, right? And I've never been busier. I have like 5 different publishers. I'm
Mm.
doing I'm writing comic books. I have a short story series. We have a new Fear Street movie in the works for
That's amazing.
Netflix, and this Goosebumps series going into the second season. It's amazing. I feel so lucky to still be so busy. It's wonderful.
It's great, and it's great to see your work to this day. I wanted to ask you, when your stories are adapted for the screen, changes are often made to fit kind of the medium of it. But how do you feel about this new approach in this show to weaving your stories into like a larger, interconnected narrative?
Well, I was shocked at first when I heard the show Goosebumps wasn't for kids.
Hmm.
I was, stories are always about 7 to 12-year-olds. And so that was kind of shocking. They decided to do teenagers. But I understand it now. I think from the episodes I've seen, it really works. You have these high school kids. And so since they're older, you can make the story scarier. You can't really do them as scary for the younger kids. And
Right.
I think it works really well. And we can keep that audience because it never gets terrible and also have an older audience. So I'm very pleased. I've only seen 2 episodes of the second season, so you may be ahead of me. And it's very creepy. I mean, that scene where the tendrils come out of Schwimmer's arm,
Yeah.
yeah, that is
It,
really disgusting.
yeah, I almost captured what I felt when I was reading those books for the first time as a child. As a fan of your work, I need to ask, are there any specific moments or experiences in your life that stand out as kind of like the spark or of a Goosebumps story or a particular character?
Oh, there's one Goosebumps story that came from something in real life. Do you know The Haunted Mask?
Yeah, of course. It's my favorite book of yours.
Where yes, where Carly Beth puts on the mask and it sticks to her face. Well, this when my son Matt was a real little guy, it was Halloween time, and he was down on the floor in the living room. I was watching him from the doorway, and he tried on a green rubber Frankenstein mask and pulled it down over his head, and he couldn't get it off. And I'm watching him. He was tugging and tugging, and I thought, what a great idea. I should have helped him, right?
Right.
Instead, I should have helped him. Instead, I said, what a great idea for a story. That's a great idea. And that's really, I started making notes. That's where the haunted mask came from him being
Right.
stuck in a mask.
I also wanted to tell you, I mean, your books, it's impressive, have stood the test of time and become a cherished part of so many childhoods, including mine. But what do you think makes these stories resonate with readers across generations?
Well, I think one thing, everybody likes scary stories. We all like to be scared if we know we're not really in trouble. It's a real escape. The real world is very scary. But these books, for kids, I mean, they know they're going out, they're having these adventures, they're fighting monsters, but they know they're safe in their own room reading at the same time. It's safe scares. And I think that's a big part of the appeal. Also, with my books, I think kids know they're not going to go too far, and they all have happy endings. I once wrote a Fear Street novel with an unhappy ending where the good girl is taken away as a murderer. And kids hated it. I did it just for fun, for me, an unhappy ending. Kids hated it. They hated this book. They wrote to me, "Dear R.L. Stine, you idiot. You moron. How could you write that? Are you going to write a sequel to finish the story?" They couldn't accept it. I never did it again.
I mean, most of your iconic works have already been adapted. I know that, but is there something out there, a book of yours that you still feel could make for a really good movie, TV show?
Well, I'm hoping they'll use some of the newer Goosebumps. We're still going.
Yeah,
I signed on to write 6 more, actually. Goosebumps it's going to start its 33rd year. Do you believe that?
that's
And
amazing.
I'm doing this new series. It's called Goosebumps House of Shivers. It's just a new name. And I wrote one recently called Goblin Monday, about goblins in the garden. And I'm hoping like some of the new books maybe can be adapted, not just the 90s stories.
Just like you said, you're still actively writing, but
Hmm.
has your approach, I'm curious, has your approach to storytelling evolved over time, or has it stayed the same after all these years?
Same.
The same.
I honestly think Goosebumps could have been written when I was a kid in the 50s. It's the same. The only thing the kids don't change and your fears don't change. Still afraid of the dark, afraid of getting lost, afraid of going in the basement. That never changes. The only thing that's changed is the technology.
Right.
I have to be very careful and try to keep technology out of it. A cell phone, a mobile phone can ruin every story. They're in trouble, they call for help, and the story's over, right?
Yeah.
That's it. I always have to be careful to get the phones out.
Hmm.
So they can't because they ruin a lot of stories. Also, technology changes every 2 weeks. Your
Yes.
story gets dated. So,
Right.
but I haven't really changed much of it. I hope I'm a better writer than when I started, but I haven't changed the approach to the stories in any way.
Who knows how kids get these ideas? Too many horror shows on TV.